Okay, curiosity's got the best of me, obviously, and I've decided to see what sort of stuff is going on with this bike. I got the tank off. That wasn't too difficult. The tank mounting is simple but ingenious. I mean, if it works, it works. That tank is actually off a Racing Gold Star, I believe, SA. And anyways, as you can see, he's made up this little bar with a rod and just used a couple of hose clamps to fasten that to the frame with. So, hey, you know what? If it works, it works. And he hasn't done anything to the frame that you can't undo. Nothing's welded on there, nothing's cut off. So it's that's the way to do stuff. And he had some just 3-4 pieces of radiator hose on the frame to keep the tank from sitting right on the metal. So hey, that works, does the trick. Anyway, I took the spark plugs out after I kicked it over, and it really didn't have much compression. So it's got me wondering just what kind of shape that top end's in at all. So anyway, also the carbs were stuck, which is not surprising for something that's been sitting as long as this has. But hey, I've got them so they go up and down now, and that's all I need, because all I really want to do is do a compression test first on this. But I wanted to make sure that the valves were operating properly and had the right adjustment on them. And this is the first time I've looked in here. So what I'm seeing right now, you're seeing for the first time too. So let's pull the exhaust off of this one here. That looks all right. I'm completely missing one of these studs out of here. I hope it's not stripped. I'll have to get down there and have a look. So anyway, let's get the other two covers off of there. That's the left exhaust. And there's the left intake, I mean. And losing a few washers along the way here. So I'm gonna put these little covers over here in the little box that I've been putting these odds and ends in. I'm gonna have to get something bigger as I go, but for now, that'll do the trick. So what I'm gonna do is roll this engine down to bottom dead center and just tap on these valves a bit to make sure that the valves are seating properly in their seats. I mean, this thing has been sitting as near as I can figure out for about the last 30 years or so. Like that inspection sticker is dated for 89. That would be when it expires. And this registration sticker is dated for 89, so that's when that would expire. So it's probably been since 1989 since this was running, I'm thinking. So anyway, I'm gonna, like I said, I'll tap those valves and make sure they're operating properly. Run the engine, through a cycle on that sort of thing. Not run it, but turn it over. I'll put a little bit of oil down the spark plug holes to make sure the cylinder's well lubricated, and then we'll stick a compression gauge in there and see what I can come up with. Okay, tap on those valves to make sure they were actually seated home on the seats. So now, as you can see, tucked away in there between the carburetors, I've got that little compression gauge in there. So I'm going to twist the throttle wide open and jump up and down on this pedal and see what kind of compression this thing's got. Oh, I did oil the cylinders, by the way, just some light oil. Better than it did. All right. Put 120 on that, and if I kicked it a few more times, it probably would have come up a bit more. 120 is reasonably respectable for something that's been sitting around for that long. If you ran this bike up, got some heat and pressure in those cylinders, pressure might go up another 10 pounds. You always get that when you get a bike that's been sitting for a long while. Let's get this. We might get this to screw in here. Get it to cooperate. Come on, baby. Hammer it run. Alright, I'm just going to pause that for a minute while I get this in there. Okay, I think I've got that started in the hole. Yep, there she goes. In there, put it down. So it's back in here. That's it over that way. Who knows? Maybe the camera will pick that up if I set it up there. Of course, you'll be reading upside down. That's okay. Alright, full throttle. Back on the pedal again. That's pretty good. Not perfect, but for something that's been sitting for 30 years, that's really not bad at all. Come on under there, baby. Okay, that's a good sign. I don't know if you can see that or not. There's a little pressure there now. It was at 115. Anyhow, that's not bad for something that's been sitting for 30 years, so I'm going to carry on with this. I'm going to remove the carburetors and clean them out. They were stuck, so it's obvious that they definitely need to be cleaned. I'll just adjust the valves, make sure they're where they should be, although they feel like they are. And of course I'll have to clean and adjust the ignition points. Get some fire going through the plugs, and who knows, with any luck this thing may start up and run half decent anyway. So anyway, next on the job would be, let's take the carburetors off. Okay, so we're ready to take the tops off the carbs and fit the screws off of that left hand one. Just take the last screw off this right hand one. Boy, there's nothing more handy than a magnetic tray to hold this stuff in. Okay, there's the right one. See how nice and slippery that is, where I've oiled it up to get it loose in its bore, because they were pretty stuck, especially this one. But yeah, you can see some gum all over the jet needle. So the jet needle's gummed up, so was everything else inside. So I think I'll probably take those fuel lines off of there just to make things a little simpler to handle before I take those carbs off. So anyway, stand by and we'll get the wrenches for that. Okay, I've got the wrench that fits those banjo bolts on the bottom. That's a 1/4 inch BSW. In other words, it's British Whitworth. So there are some, actually most of the nuts and bolts on these old British bikes, you can fumble your way through it with just standard and metric wrenches, like a combination of both of them. Usually you can find something that fits, but like I said, these carburetors have a peculiar sized bolt, banjo bolt on the bottom that holds these fittings on. And there's nothing that I know of that'll fit on there except that 1/4 inch BSW or a crescent wrench, you know, an adjustable spanner or something like that. But, bear with me while I get this unscrewed. And I'll show you what this little assembly looks like. Meanwhile, I'm just going to pause You don't want to bother watching me unscrew a couple of bolts. That just takes too long. Right, so there's that fuel line assembly. There's the little banjo bolts going through that banjo fitting. They don't usually fall out of there unless you tell them not to. Then they'll fall out of there and they'll roll under the workbench, and you won't find them till about 6 months after the bike has left the shop. So, I mean, this one obviously wants to come out, so I'm going to put him in that little box over there. Let me show you. There are also little filters that go in those banjo fittings, which is another way of stopping the junk from getting in your carburetors, which is kind of nice because most of these have petcocks that have a screen on them as well, so you get double filtered before you get to the carburetors. This one is not fitted with that type of petcock on the fuel tank, but there is an inline filter on there as well, but I'll be replacing that with a new one. So anyway, meantime, it's time to start unbolting those carburetors. So I'll put this back on pause and then I'll show you what I got when I get them off. Okay, just about got those carbs off. As you can see, I got one sitting there. I'm just about to pull the last one off. Just finish unscrewing that little nut. It's holding on to the right-hand side. There we go now. I got two sort of icky looking carburetors. I'll put those over on the bench. I'm just going to set them on the stool there for now. Before I do that, I'm going to see if I can get the slides off the cables without too much trouble. Let's see now. First thing you need to do is take the needle out. I don't know if you can see the end of that needle, but it's pretty dark and gummed up. I'll show that to you before I take this out. Anyway, to get that cable out of there, it's just that simple. So I'm just going to let that hang there for now. Doesn't matter. So I'll set this one down there. You can see how dirty that needle is. So that goes down inside the jet tube and the needle jet and down into the main jet. So if that's that dirty, then so is the main jet. So let's see if we get this one off of here. Try to hold it so you can sort of see what I'm doing. All right, and that needle comes up through there. That one's really dirty too. Okay, let's go with the spring. Push the cable up through the hole and then through the other one, and it should come right out just like that. Okay, so let me see. The spring, the needles, the slides, the carburetor bodies, they're all going over there on the bench after I drop them on the floor and bang them up a little bit. So let me get the camera over the tripod here. Yeah, so there they are on the workbench. I'll put those parts in that little tin for now. Clean up the bodies, get the float bowls off of there, get all that nasty old yuck out of there. Just, I just thought of something. I could use the carburetors off the Commando, the ones I just cleaned up very recently, just to see if this thing will go. But no, I'm not going to do that. These have to be cleaned up anyway. So anyhow, I'll get those apart and let you know what I found inside. There you go. We'll have a quick peek at what I found on the inside of those carburetors. There's a lot of that black gooey varnish in the bottom. It's all over the screens on the main jet. I'll be removing those screens. These were only on the earlier concentrics. They didn't bother with them on the later ones or the new ones. But yeah, I'll be taking those screens right off of there and cleaning up these jets. But a little something about, these are an early carburetor when you see that pilot jet sitting right there inside the float bowl. The great thing about that is you can change that pilot jet completely out of there. It's not like the later ones where they were hidden away up in here in the castings, right, where and pressed in basically. So anyhow, these will get cleaned up. What else did I notice about these? They do have the later type of, show it on this one. It's a little easier to see because it's not as come on, focus, baby. Can you see that? There's a little hole right there in that needle jet. That's the later type. The earlier type didn't have that hole to allow air in, so you didn't get as much air into the mix. But I mean, they still worked pretty good. Oh, pardon me. That's my seasonal hack. Anyway, yeah, they had that hole in the later type, but the later type also had a longer needle to make up for the extra air that was coming in. So you can't combine the earlier type that does not have that hole with the later type that has the longer needle. So you can replace these with the later type like this one here if you don't have the ones with the hole in them, but you have to use the longer needle that goes with it, in other words. So anyway, let me rip those old screens off of there and get this stuff all cleaned up. I'll probably put some lacquer thinner in those float bowls and get that old black guckety stuff out of there. And anyways, with any luck, we ought to have some usable carburetors. Here's another quick little clip. I just scraped the majority of the guck and gunk out of the bottom of the float bowl, so that's what you got there. And I've ripped off the screens that were on the bottom of the main jets. They're really plugged up and just wrapped in that old black nasty gunk. So yeah, so anyway, I'll have to scrape that off of there and get those cleaned up. Just thought you might want to see that before I got them all cleaned up first. Right, another really short little clip here. After that last one, this is what they're supposed to look like. Not all black and yucky. So anyway, I still have to take these out of the jet block and clean them, but that's what you should see. And by the way, they are a 220 jet. These are jetted and they have the same slides as that 750 Norton carburetor set that I was working on a couple of weeks ago. Anyway, let's get on with it. Now, where are we at? Get the carburetors back on. Banjo fittings are back in place. This side, I'll put a short piece of hose on there so I can hook up my IV unit with gasoline when the time comes. And I have this side blanked off because it'll supply both carburetors through that hose between them there. So now, taking off that cover there on the side of the timing case, and there's your typical Lucas ignition system in there, points and coil sort of an affair. Coils are under the seat. This here is your two condensers, so that's a nice good sized port or home, I guess you'd call it, to put those things. Anyway, I'm gonna set those points. One of these days I'm gonna do a little tutorial on setting ignition timing with points, because it's really not very hard. People seem to think it's all this complicated business, but it isn't. Anyway, where's my flashlight? Let me just grab that, because there's a timing mark right in there. I don't know if the phone will pick that up. Is that picking that up? Too bright. Anyway, you can see the timing mark, and there's a mark on the generator rotor that you line it up with. So let me get at those points and see if I can get some fire going to the plugs. Okay, points are cleaned, points are gapped, ignition timing is set. It really wasn't too far off. Points were a little bit dirty, but that's to be expected after 30 or 35 years of sitting around. But I did this the static method, which I prefer. I'm one of these old school characters who likes to do things the old way. You can do this. You can check this with a timing light if you want to when you're done. But the whole idea of this is that little light there. When you go into full advance, well, I can see the reflection of the light on the case, so let me just show you that. When you go into full advance, the light goes out, right? And all I've done is hook a battery across the points in order to do that. So yeah, both left and right points are set. So now, I guess the next thing to do will be stick a battery in there and find out if the ignition system is hooked up electrically or not. Anyway, if not, then I'll just hook that ignition system up, jury rig it to the battery, and get some fire that way. Okay, I'm ready to give this thing a try. See what happens to it. I got the IV unit hooked up, battery's in, has fire. So we got fire, we got compression, we got fuel. It should start. Anyway, I'm going to prime those carburetors. I've got the furnace shut off right now. It's pretty cold out today. Well, not really that cold now that I think of it, like -2, something like that. Anyway, no point in heating the outdoors, so the furnace is off, the garage door is open a crack, and the man door is open about halfway. So I do expect this to smoke a little bit because I did put quite a bit of oil down the cylinders. But anyway, let's get this thing primed up and see if it'll go. Oh, it's not going to prime if I don't open the fuel up. Okay, let's try it now. Yep. That's the left carb. That's the right one. Okay, I put my son's riding boots on because I was wearing my own shop sneakers before. I don't really want to kick something with sneakers on because you can hurt your foot pretty bad that way. Anyway, that's going good. Let's turn the key on and see what happens. It may start right up and it may not. Let's find out anyway. Okay. Start. Fiddle around with this a little bit more, maybe it'll go. I'll just check the ignition, make sure I still got a spark on here and stuff. And anyway, we'll see what's going on here. Okay, what did I do? I checked the spark, still got great spark there. So it's not that. I squirted a little more oil through the spark plug holes into the cylinder. Okay, the compression is down a bit, but like I say, it is kind of cold around here, and I do know that some of these old Brit bikes don't usually need to choke, but in these kind of climates, sometimes you need it, especially on a colder day. So the choke is on now as well. Let's see if we can get some life out of it this time. I'm about to run out of fuel well. No fuel in that tube right now, so I'm going to have to fill up the ideal. It's a good sign, although it is smoking a little bit. Who knows, that might clear up in a little bit. Time will tell. Just let her putter away till she runs out of fuel. Over there. You're marking out, she's running out of fuel. Actually, the smoke's cleared up quite a bit on it. A little bit more running and that's going to be okay, I think. See, my door's only open just a little bit after all that running, and there's some smoke in the garage, as you can see, but it's not as overwhelming as it could be, and I did put an awful lot of oil down those cylinders, so anyway, that's quite promising, so I'd better turn off the ignition while I'm thinking about it, or we'll have a flat battery. But anyway, yeah, I think Charlie's going to be pretty pleased to hear that. So that's the old bike up and running. Like I said, the exhaust did clear up quite a bit. That could have been stuff that got spit down the exhaust. It was all over the piston crowns and everything. So anyway, that's quite promising, and I'm just going to call this video quits for now, and thanks for watching. You could like, share, and subscribe if you want to. Thank you. Bye-bye.